Mr. Brown, Mr. Stanley Brown, it's an honor to be here and in your house, at your house. We have a question. We would like to start with you're a very historical person here in Curacao. Everybody knows you. Who are you, and what was your role in the event, such an important event of May 30th, 1969?
I am the son of a mixed marriage. My father is a Negro and my mother is white. So I was called in Groot Kwartier, where we lived, the neighborhood of laborers. Being a Negro, my father was a laborer, the red nigger. And I think that influenced the person that I became on the long run. Because at a certain moment, you never know where you really belonged in the community. You could always choose to join the white group, the powerful, the group in power, or you could choose to join the black group, which was at a laborer level. I think due to the fact that I lived in Groot Kwartier among Negroes, I chose culturally for the second group. And when I came back as a school teacher, I studied in Holland with a scholarship. When I came back as a school teacher, I went to live in the same neighborhood. I didn't go and live at an upper social economical level that my new diploma gave me opportunity to do, seeing that my income became much bigger. I went and lived in the neighborhood where I was born.
Okay.
And there I realized the suffering of this group, the low wages, the economical exploitation, the sexual exploitation, the racism that was towards this group, that at no way they could really break through the ceiling with or without education and belong to the group in power. To give examples, before the 30th of May, there were no black people, traders, merchants, judges, governor, lieutenant governor, school headmasters, all those important positions in the community were in hands of white people. You could say that the economical power, the religious power, the bishop was also a white man, the political power, and the culture was white. Mm-hmm. And I felt the need that it being the black part of the population, just including my father, was 80% of the population. And the minority was white, and still they had total power. So I felt we had a right to also occupy powerful positions. And that was the role that I played in 30th of May. I started publishing a weekly that when I published it for the first time, it had a circulation of 3,000. Mm-hmm. When I stopped publishing it, it had a circulation of 17,000. So it was well read among a big part of the population. And where I tried to convince the population that we also had certain rights, mm-hmm. that you could not think that all power could remain in hands of the white minority. And I proposed a revolution.
You proposed a revolution.
Yeah.
And was this accepted?
Change this situation. But I think in the beginning, they felt so powerful that they did not really take me serious. That I would get followers and that there will ever come a revolution. You know, Brown is a school teacher. He's talking out of his head. We have the guns, you know, we have the power. But I had a lot of contact with revolutionary movements all over the world. At that time, there was a movement of change in the world. You had Black Panthers in America with their own paper, the East Village Other. You had Rode Armee in Germany. You had the Provost in Holland. And due to they had Che Guevara in Cuba. Due to the fact that I had a paper, I would send them my paper. I had one English example. I would send them that together with the current Papierment paper and ask for an exchange subscription with their paper. And I had Spartacus in England. I would get their paper, and that will form my mind and my strategies to organize a revolution. So I became like a kind of a Voltaire.
But these groups are kind of radical, don't you think?
What?
These groups are radical.
And so I was radical too. No? I wanted to change, and I wanted to change with violence. So I was considered gradually an outcast, a radical group. And so I one day became to realize that I had followers and it was going to cost them power, political power in the first place. They locked me up for the first time. I went to jail in 1967 for 10 days. Most people think that the first time I went to jail was 69, but the first time was 1967. And then the Minister of Justice went to television and mentioned my name 17 times, accusing me of all kind of things, like walking around with 3 revolvers, one in my car, one in my house, and one in my pocket, and that I was going to shoot the tourists so that the tourism would die on the island, that I was going to burn the Emmerbrug, the Minister of Justice. And then he did it in a very smart way. He said, you all see Stanley Brown as a school teacher who is radical and who is criticizing the government, but let me show you now who is the real Stanley Brown. This is what he confessed. I never confessed that, of course. I never did those things like that. And after 10 days, the election took place. The white power won again. And I was allowed to go home without even appearing in front of the judge after the Minister of Justice had accused me of all those things. Okay. It's showing you that there's a political power game that they were always playing. Mm-hmm. They used to make laws of the moment to stop breaking through the ceiling. When Wilson Godet, in those years, together with Guillermo Rosario, wanted to start a black people political party, and you had to sign 25 signatures to participate on the election. They changed the law so that you had to have 1% of the amount of votes that had taken place in the former election. So then you needed 400 to 500 signatures. So the Black Party never succeeded in participating. There was always a control mechanism that you could not break through. And I fought for that. I fought for the breakthrough, no? And that is what happened really in 30th of May, because the anger was there. The black people had felt the emotion, the anger. Their daughters were working in the town at those times in shops and so for 100 guilders a month. The official laborer, like a carpenter or so, earned 200 guilders a month, while people that work in the shell earned 400 guilders a month, like my father. But the people who occupied jobs that were normally for white people as school teachers, I had gotten a scholarship, we earned 1,200 guilders a month. To see the big distance.
Yeah.
And due to the low wages, you would get that sexual diseases would be more would be more often seen by the lower income wages, because if you give a girl that earned $100 a month a lift to her job, that was about 30% of her income. And from that lift, other things developed. So the anger was there, but we were scared. It was a hire and fire capitalism. If I didn't like your face, you were fired. If you came late to your job, fired. Because there was a row of people waiting to take over your job. And we try to influence these things. So when the march started, and let's say the spark of until the whole organized revolution was when in Westcar the shell had discharged people, and when they went outside of the shell gate, Westcar was waiting for them to take the same people on a job with half of the wages that the shell was paying. And then when they went back on the shell grounds, they were doing the same job that the shell was paying them for $400, and now Westcar was paying them $200. So that angered people, eh? And the anger reached a high point when one of these laborers was kicked out of the office of the director of Westcar. I must repeat, all directors, Shell, Main Muscapay, Dock, Westcar, name them, were white people. And so it was a white Dutchman that kicked a black man out of his office.